Okay, what's up, everybody? We're back. And today we're going to build on the inventory system a little bit more. And I'm going to show a little demonstration on how we can set up something in the use function here. So I'm going to be making some player health. And I already went ahead and made a static mesh. So I made this health pickup here. So I have a static mesh that I'm going to use. It's just a quick thing that I did with a couple cubes in Unreal. So this is going to be my health pickup here. And I went ahead and made a icon from it too. So I have a health icon that I'm just going to use for my inventory slot. So that is all that I've done so far. So we're going to turn this into an inventory item that we can spawn, pick up in the world, add to our inventory. And then once it's in our inventory, we'll click on it, use it, and have that update the player's health. I did get a couple questions on how to set up some of the use type features in here in the inventory. I was kind of leaving that up to the player on how you wanted to handle that, because everybody does have a different way of wanting to do that, whether it's casting to the player or using interfaces or anything like that. I'm going to just show a quick, hopefully quick kind of demo on setting up a health pickup and using it. So I need to make some sort of a progress bar that has health on the screen. I need to set up something that I can interact with that will lower my health. And I have already made a video on setting that stuff up. So I'm going to go through it again in here really quick, but I'm not going to spend too much time doing it. So I'm going to start by going into the widget that we're already making, our main HUD. And I'm just going to add a progress bar to that. Because this is already set up and getting added, I'm just going to use this. So I'm going to take a progress bar. You can set up your HUDs however you want to, but I'm just going to take a progress bar, add it to this HUD here, and we'll just throw it down here. So I'm going to make a function in here, and we're just going to say health update. And then I'm going to add an input onto this function. So I'm going to go into input. We're going to add health in here, and I'm going to make that a float. Okay, so now we're going to be feeding our health into here. So now when we come out of here, divide it by 100, and then we're going to grab the progress bar we made, drag off and do a set percent. We can plug our health coming out of the divide into our set percent. And I'm just going to return out of this function. So I'm going to go into the first person character here, and we're going to make a function in here. And I'm just going to call this one set health. We're going to need a variable on the player for health. So I'm going to make a variable called health, make that a float. And that's going to be what we're going to use to set our health percent. So now, because I'm making that in my inventory, I just have to grab my inventory, drag off, get main HUD. What we want to do is call that function that we just made in here. So that was health update. So if I drag off my main HUD, I can call health update. So then we can plug that in. We can return out of here. And we just want to add our health to this. So if I grab my health variable, plug it in here, we should be all set now. So now all we have to do is call this function when we want to update our health. And what I want to do real quick before I forget is just go into this variable and just change this to be default at 100. So I'm just going to go into my blueprint folder. We're going to make a quick actor in here, and I'll just we'll call this BP damage. And then inside of here, I'm just going to make a collision sphere. And I'm not really sure how big that's going to be. I'm going to uncheck hidden in game so we can see it. All right, that's perfect. So that will be our damage sphere there. So we jump into the damage sphere. We don't need any of this. I'm just going to do a on begin overlap. And I'm just going to throw a print on that, make sure it picks our player up. And it does, that prints hello. So we're good there. So now I'm not going to set up anything crazy here. We're not going to do any checks for anything. I'm just going to say if anything overlaps this, we're just going to apply damage here. And again, I'm just running through this fast just to kind of get this part set up here, because this was more for using the inventory item. So I'm going to grab the other actor. That's going to be our damaged actor. Our damage causer is going to be self, and we're just going to say maybe 25 damage. So we should be sending 25 damage to the player. So now if we jump into our player event graph, I'm going to do event any damage. And we're going to say if this triggers, we're going to set a new health. So we're going to get our health out. We're going to get health. We're going to minus the damage coming in and then set that to be our new health. Before we do set it, we want to clamp it. So this should be working here. So now what I'm going to do is just grab my health update function, or the set health function. We're going to plug that in there. And there we go. So every time we enter this sphere, it's going to take 25% health away. Okay, so we have working health, we have damage, so now we have to make our inventory item here. Again, we can make a child of this BP base item, or we can go into any of our other items, duplicate something here. Doesn't really matter which way you want to go. I'm just going to duplicate one, so we'll just take the bread, duplicate that, and we'll just call that our health. And now I'm just going to populate the static mesh. We'll populate the icon. Stack size, I'll give it 5. We'll say for a pickup text, we'll just say pickup health, display name of health. The use enum, I'm going to add one here for health, so we'll add something there. This isn't going to switch into another item, and I'm not making it a hotbar item. So I'm going to just compile, save that. I'm going to go into the use enum, and we're going to add one in there. So we have the inventory use enum here. So I'm going to add one in here called health. We'll save that. And then now if we go in here, we now have health. So now that has the use enum of health. So our items should be all set up now. So I'm going to throw a world item out here, and we'll pick our new health. And I might just throw a couple out here. We'll throw 2 of them out. And we're just going to check to make sure everything works. So we can press F to pick up health. And there we go. Picked it up, picked it up. And now we have 2 healths in our inventory here. So now we're going to set up the use here. So now we jump into our use function. Everything else should be all set up here. So if we go into our use, going to open that up. I'll leave the print in here for now. And I'm just going to put a switch on enum here. So we're going to drag off that use, and I'm going to do a switch. And then we'll just plug this in after the print. I'm just going to leave the print so I can know everything is working there. And I'm just going to put the switch up here. And then the return, we're going to have to return out of all of these. But for now, we're just setting up health here. So I'm going to do this. So we're going to come off the health pin. So now, again, you can do this different ways. So you could cast to your player from your inventory. Since both are going to be loaded all the time anyway, you're not going to be adding any overhead by doing that. So if you have a lot of info that you want to send back and forth to your player, you could just cast to your player from your event graph, begin play here. You could just cast to your player here off of the main inventory, so it's only going to cast one time. So that would be fine to do. I'm actually just going to send an interface out to the player here. So if I find my interface, so here's the inventory interface we made. I would probably add this on a different interface and just leave this one for the inventory function. But because I have this one, I'll just use it here. So we'll say, I'm just going to add a new function in here. And I'm just going to say to player. Okay, so there is different ways. Like I said, there's going to be different ways on how to do this. We're going to send that to player interface out when we use this health. So I'm going to get player character. We're going to drag off, look for that interface we just made. So to player, and we want message. And then we can plug that into our health here. So that will fire and send the interface out to our player. And then I can just return on here. And then the player should already have this interface, so we can just get the to-player interface out. And we'll say when this fires, how much health do we want to get here? You could actually, in your item, in your health item, you could actually add another default to it if you wanted for health. So that if you wanted to have different items that maybe gave you different health, you could set a default in there. So then each item you can give the health amount you want, and then you could just pull the item right here, get the defaults, and pass in whatever health is in the default to it. Since I just have one health item here, I'm just going to make up a number and just say that's going to be the health. When this fires, we're going to basically do the same thing we're doing here. So I'm going to copy that, put this down here, because we want to set a new health here. So we're going to add those. So I'm going to come off health, and we're going to add, and let's say my damage is going to take 25 away, so I'm gonna say we'll just do like 30 health. So now we're gonna call our health progress bar to update. So we'll pick up our health pickups, go in, get our health down a little bit, and then now if we use one, our health just went up, and then we use another one, our health goes up again. So everything is working in here. So that's using an interface to go to the player to update. Okay, now I'm going to show how to do it if you did want to cast. I'm going to show how to do that too. So we're going to go in here. I'm going to delete this from the player, because we don't need that now. Pile and save that. go back to the inventory. And now we're not going to need to send this interface out, so we can get rid of that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to cast to our player now. Because like I said, if the inventory is always loaded and the player is always loaded, you're not adding anything extra. So casting to the player really isn't a big deal. The only thing it's going to do is just make a hard reference to your inventory. So if you wanted to migrate your inventory out, it's going to try taking your player and everything involved with your player. Just for demonstration here, we're going to set this up. So I'm just going to move this stuff over here. I'm going to get player character, and we're going to cast to our first person character. So cast to first person character. And now I want to put this off of the main inventory. So basically when we're making the main HUD, we're doing that from our main inventory. And that's going to be where I want my cast coming from. So on the inventories begin play, if this is main inventory, we're going to come in here and we're going to cast, and I'm going to promote that to a variable so we have it. So now our inventory is casting to our player. So now we have access to that right here. So now what we can do is come up back into our use item function here, and I can grab the first person character. We can drag off here and we can do a set health, and then I can drag off again and we can do a get health, and then tell it how much health we want to add in here. So we're essentially doing the same thing that we just did in the player, but without the interface. So I can get the health, I can add a certain amount, and then we would want to make sure that we're clamping that. And then that would be setting our player health right there. So we'll clamp that from 0 to 100, setting the health. And then all we would want to do is call that health update again. So we can get that right from this first person character ref. So if I drag off here, I can do a, what was the name of it? Set health it was called. So if we drag off here and do set health function, this is going to be the function that updates our progress bar. So if we throw that in here, clean this up a bit, we could return out. That should work there. So then what I would probably do at this point though, is if you're doing this route, you're going to have more stuff that's going to be coming from the player. So what I would do is just grab this stuff here, collapse it. Because I had this going into two different things, it gave me two inputs, which I don't want. So we can unplug one of these. We'll unplug the input pin, get rid of that, and then run this down to here. Okay, so this is now collapsed, cleaned up a little bit. So we can just tell it how much we want to add right here. So let's just go back and do what we were doing here. So we'll say 30. So a health pickup will give me 30. We're going to clamp it from 0 to 100, set that to be our new health, and call our health update here. And then we don't need that pin anymore. So now we can use this to feed in different things. So now if we had food or water that we want to update, you can use this right here to drag off and set whatever you want in your player. So we now have a nice little collapse node that's going to do everything we need it to do for health. So now doing this way, we should be all set as well. So if we jump in, we'll pick up our health, take some damage, and then we come in here, we use it, and there we go. So we're using our health is going up. So everything is working. So this would be the same way or the same method if you had like a sprint pickup, or if you had any kinds of, coins or money or anything like that that you wanted to update. I did want to show that real quick. So hopefully this kind of helps out, gives you a couple different ways on how you can do this, whether you choose to cast it or interface. So I think that's going to be it for now. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.